Hello, this is Getting There or How I Did It. Um, my name is John Van Stry, as it says at the bottom of the slide. I am a science fiction and fantasy, mostly urban fantasy author. I've done very well. I started in 2011. As of the recording of this, it's 2024. And I'm in seven figures in earnings. I am a regular six-figure per year author. Come close to seven figures. Never hit it yet. Who knows? But one of the things me and a number of my friends who are seven-figure authors yearly have always laughed about are the people who tell you how to do this. And when you look at their numbers, you realize that they're making seven figures based on how-to books. As a regular author, no. They ain't even in six figures. And it's kind of sad. And they charge tons of money, and most of the stuff they tell you just really isn't worth it. So I decided I'd put this together. Who knows? Maybe one of these days I'll write a book and sell it for like 99 cents. Because how-to books are not where I make my living. Overview. List of the slides, basically, what topics we're going to discuss. Let's get into it. Okay, why are you here? What drives you as an author? Do you just want to be famous? Well, good luck with that. You got a long road to hoe, but you can do it. Several people have. Fortune. Do you want to get rich? This is a hard market to get rich in. Make a living? Oh, yeah. You can make a living in this. You can make a great living. It all depends on how hard you're willing to work at it. Bragging rights, say, hey, I got a book out there. Nothing wrong with that, okay? Just happy to be on the show. You just want to be able to put some stuff out there, maybe even regularly, so you can say, when you go to conventions, yeah, I'm an author, I've written this, I've written that. That's cool too. Understand why ever you want to do this, these are fine, but know why you want to do it. Know your goals. Which leads us to this. What do you want? And I'd say be honest with yourself if nobody else. Know what you want and go for it. Of course, I believe that you should then be honest with everyone else because it's not a crime. There's nothing wrong with going up to guys and saying, yeah, I write as a hobby. I have a lot of respect for that. Of course, I started out doing it as a hobby too. Now, where are you now? Where do you want to be in 5 years, in 10 years? If you're going to do this, know where you're starting and know where you're going. Now, you can change your target as time goes on. If things happen, you can either decide you want to ramp back or you want to ramp up. Nothing wrong with any of that. Just as there's nothing wrong with where you are now. If you're happy where you are, that's cool. If you're not happy and you want to progress, then you can work at it and do so. And you've got nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah, I know Heinlein used to say writing is an art best done in the dark with the door closed and the lights out. Yeah, it's the whole just open a vein and let it bleed. But don't be ashamed of it, really, because you're just sitting down and trying to write. You're one in a million, so just go for it. Money goals, monetary goals. How much do you want to make? I can tell you how much you're going to start off making when you go into this. Look at how much money you're making from your job now. That's where you're going to gravitate to almost immediately as you start working at this, if you go full time. Because we all go where we're comfortable. And it's just, I've seen it so many times. People end up as writing, when they go full time, their first thing they hit is where they've been. There's nothing wrong with that either. Just if you're fine with that, that's great. Because writing for a lot of us is a lot more fun than what we used to do. And I was good at what I used to do. But after almost 30 years, I kind of grew tired of it. Be proud of what you make. Never be ashamed at how much money you make, whether it's a lot or a little. And don't shame other people. All right? You should be proud because there's always going to be someone making more. There's always going to be someone making less. But you're earning money as a writer. And that's a big deal. People are willing to give you their money to read what you wrote. And you should be proud of that. Don't compare yourself to other people. I'll go into that a little bit later on. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of telling people. There are a lot of folks who don't like that, as I've learned to my consternation. But I'll tell you right now, if someone comes along and they're a friend or some guy you know, and they tell them, oh, wow, I'm making all this money, congratulate them. All right? Just congratulate them. Because you look at that and say, hey, maybe I can do that. Let it inspire you. Never give anyone grief for doing well in this. It's dumb. Which leads us into the power of envy and jealousy. Okay? There's nothing wrong with being envious of another writer's success or jealous over how much they make, provided that you use that energy to make you work harder. Never attack anyone else. There's no profit in it. This is a business. We're here to make money. We're here to sell books. We're here to be seen, to have our works read. Don't hate, emulate. I love that saying. Because that's where you're going to make the money. That's where you're going to get the books out there. That's where you're going to get the readers. That's where you're going to get eyeballs. I will admit that, yeah, I've been jealous of several authors out there. Most of which are my friends now. And I sat down with one once and told him when he did a specific series, it made me jealous as anything. It inspired me to work harder because I looked at what he did and I was just so damn impressed. And I was like, why didn't I think of that? It was really cool what he had done. And so it drove me on to work harder. A lot of times that's what I do. I look at what some of my friends are doing and I think, gee, did I miss a boat here? Or does this inspire me? Do I see things in here to inspire me? Or, it helps. It helps to see your friends going out there and doing really well because it makes you want to up your game, to be with them and to work that hard. So if you're going to be that way as far as being envious or jealous or anything like that, make it inspire you. Don't turn dark with it, because that is not going to make you an author. It is not going to make you a better author. The next question, who are you writing for? First and foremost, you're writing for yourself. If you don't enjoy what you are writing, no one else is going to enjoy it either. That's one of the secrets of being successful. You have to love your work because it shows. It shows through. If you're writing a story and suddenly you realize you're not happy with it, go back however many pages it takes, find where you were still happy, delete everything in between and start that part over. Maybe a lot, maybe an entire book. But if you're not happy, they're not happy. Remember, your number one reader is you. The person you have to make the happiest is you. It comes through. It really does. The next group of people you're writing for is those who pay you money. Try to figure out who they are and where they are. They're most likely going to have the same interests as you. They're going to be in the same places that you go because they're going to like what you like. That's why you write what you write. So they'll probably like the same things. So that's where you're going to find most of your original audience. And those are the places where you want to look first. And that's who probably your starting market is. And you always want to know who your market is. Now, fan requests. Don't. It's a surefire way to lose money. If a small bunch of people are writing you, especially when you're starting out, no, do this story, do that story, yeah, ignore that. Because those people are, the very vocalist people are the smallest minority. If you're going to do fan requests, and my first fan requests were absolute failures, and I learned not to do those again. The next time I did fan requests, it was after I wrote a really long and big successful series, and I was thinking of a follow-on, and I got a tremendous amount of interest. So it wasn't just a few, it was widespread. I enjoyed the work, so okay, I did a follow-on. It didn't make as much money as the original because there's always a diminishing returns when you write a series, but it did well and I enjoyed it. And those are two key elements. I enjoyed it and it did well. Didn't do fantastic, but it did well. So don't do fan requests unless they're from the people who are actively paying you. And you know they're paying you. You know it's from your market. And this is an important one. Once you start getting sales, find out who your market really is, because you were probably mistaken. I primarily write men's adventure. All right, I like books written for men because after the 80s, all the big publishing houses decided that they weren't going to target stories for men anymore, especially in science fiction and fantasy. They were going to target women for a whole bunch of political reasons. And so you couldn't get many books written that way. If you weren't an established writer, you couldn't get in. They wouldn't touch you. I know this from my own experience. So I started writing for men. I started writing these books. And I went to certain genres, which if you're here, if you've looked me up, you probably know what some of them are. And a year and a half into this, I'm at a convention, and women start coming up to me and telling me how much they love the Valen's Legacy series. This is a men's adventure. It's got a lot of action, urban fantasy, has some harem, as they call it, aspects to it. It's not really a harem novel. It's a men's adventure, but it has harem aspects in it. And they just loved it. And that's when I found out that half of my audience were women, and mostly women romance readers. They latched onto this, and then consequently I ended up getting known by quite a few of the larger romance writers and became friends with several of them. All right, let's go to the beginning. First thing you got to do is put that story up, that first story. So if you're reading this and you haven't written it yet, you need to go write it. You need to get that story up. Don't take forever with it. Just get it written. Don't go into review hell and revision hell and keep going over and over. Get it written. Put it up. And that's the first foot on the trail. We all have to start somewhere, and we all started there. Once you get it done and you put it up, start thinking again, why are you here? What do you want? Always good to ask yourself that every so often. And understand you're going to fail. Your first book is going to suck. They all suck. I mean, I still think my first book was pretty damn good, had some good sales. Compared to what I write now, no, it is nowhere near as good. But that's okay. You know, it's a process. You learn, you grow, you write again. You just keep doing it. You got to start somewhere, and everybody started there. So yeah, you're going to fail, but it's okay, because the truth is you didn't fail. Think of all the people who never wrote anything, or said they were and never did anything, said they were going to put up books and never did anything. Just by the act of putting up that first story, you were head and shoulders above the crowd. So that right there is a huge success. Any other failures? That's part of learning. It's immaterial. Just keep going on. Here are my first year sales. Okay, I started in like March of 2011. I made a total of $428.14 American, 12 pounds, almost 6 euros. So I made less than $500 my first year. Okay, there's Passion Project, Passion Short. I don't mention those, and an experiment. Those were sort of on the romance side of urban fantasy, because I used to read a lot of paranormal romance, and so I figured I would try my hand at some of that. Children of Steel was written back in the early 80s. Danger Money, Darlene, those were all written later on. Lead Follower, Suffer the Consequences was written as a joke kind of a thing. The Waiting story was just a short story that I wrote. I did okay, didn't do great, and I was doing part-time. You can see the different markets on the bottom. Mostly on Amazon now, but we'll go over that later. Now, why did I go into romance and paranormal romance? Part of it was money. Part of it is I really love the genre. I mean, paranormal romance, I really love. Some romance is good, some I'm not into, but the paranormal romance, I really love that genre. There's some really great writers in there. They tell really good stories. And I decided to go into that. And I wrote a bunch of novellas in there. I think one novel, maybe two. The novellas, shorter story lengths, faster market response. So you can write a novella in like a weekend or two, depending on how much time you want to put into it. Get it out there. And one thing I will say about a lot of women readers, which is great, they will respond. They will respond quickly. You'll get reviews. Now, always remember the caveat is to be careful about what reviews say, but you'll find constructive criticism in a lot of them. And you should look at that and weigh it. The really nasty reviews, probably toss them, but just see if you can mine a kernel of truth out of them or not. But don't take it to heart. That market response of the reviews and also the sales is good. And I learned a lot about how to deal with a particular market, fans, advertising, all the things required. It was a very low cost of entry time-wise. I used to do all my own covers back then. Pretty simple covers, pretty cheesy, but enough to draw interest. I found a niche and I stayed in it and exploited it. But the biggest thing was I gained a lot of experience as a writer because paranormal romance, plot and character development are very important things. And if you skimp, you will get taken to task. If you do well, you will be told you did well. They will point out in the reviews the things they liked. And it was an awesome experience for me. I don't know if the market's still that way, but I learned a lot. I did it pretty seriously for 2 years. Again, part-time. I'm doing it on the weekends. At work, on my breaks, I would maybe make some notes and stuff like that, ideas for the next story. But I went into it. And because I really enjoy the market, I like the stories, and I was thinking about doing it full time, to be honest. I was thinking of just writing that and not doing science fiction anymore. Second year sales. Okay? If you look down at that red circle, $4,000 in Barnes and Noble. Total, $7,000. Okay, I went up by more than a factor of 10. But look at where the sales were. They're on Barnes & Noble. Smashwords, which included at that time a whole bunch of places, didn't do bad. Smashwords was a different place now. Now it kind of sucks. Amazon, those paranormal books weren't targeting well on Amazon. I mean, if you look to the side, the Passion Plays didn't do great, but I enjoyed them. They were fun for me. The mild erotica, some of that did really well. Again, if you look up at the chart, you'll see. And you'll also notice that the biggest point of sales was Barnes & Noble because that was where the market was. On the erotica, the first one I did really took off, and the fourth one I did. And I started not putting those on Amazon. A couple of them I did just to see how the market was there, but the market really wasn't. Passion Play did a little better probably on Amazon than anywhere else. Some free stuff. But you can see, huge change. And also, though, I've got a lot more out there. And I'm targeting a particular, or trying to target a particular audience, and I'm having some success with it. So yes, sales went from under 500 to over 7,000. What changed? Those adult stories, romance erotica, paranormal romance really is what they were. That had a huge growth, and it was a growing market back then especially. I found a couple of niche markets, and I got into them. And I did a fair bit of advertising for these different places. Back then you could buy banner ads on websites from a number of different companies. I did. I also learned that passion plays don't really sell. Passion play is what I call a story that you write because you got a lot of passion for it and you don't really care who reads it. It's something you're writing solely for yourself. You're not thinking of any commercial aspect. Didn't really sell, but the fans are dedicated. Seriously dedicated. I mean, years after I stopped writing them, I was still getting some notes. On my romance erotica stuff, I was getting emails up to 2 years after I stopped writing it from people wanting to know if I was going to come back. Now, both of those were written under pen names. And I had everything set up, but for different reasons, I eventually left that market. The biggest reason I left the market was I wasn't being fulfilled. And again, I'll go into that here in a little bit. And this comes a question that you have to ask yourself. What are you willing to write? Passion plays, they don't sell, but if you want to write them, by all means, do. I've done it. Nothing wrong with it. You learn. All writing is an exercise in learning. Remember that. So it's never a waste of time. Erotica or even porn. Erotica you can do well with. Porn, I don't know if I want to go into that market because you really limit yourself. And the thing to always keep in mind is pen names. You want to build a backlist. Pen names do not a backlist build. Now, stories in your favorite genre. Yeah. Oh, by all means. If you want to write stories in that, go for it because you know the genre. It's your favorite. You're going to love it. People are going to see that. Stories like that one you love so much. Again, yeah, you understand that genre. You understand everything. Don't rip anyone off. Don't try to steal their plot. Well, plots can't be copyrighted. So if you try to copy their plot, though, people are going to know. They're not going to like it. But anything that inspires you, that you love, yeah, by all means, write it. To market? No, not unless you know the market. Again, something I will go into a bit more later. What someone else said was the market? Yeah, that's the same answer. If you don't know it, stay away from it. Or unless you're willing to invest the time and effort to learn it and then find out if you like it or not. And if you're planning to write the best thing that mankind has ever seen, yeah, you're not going anywhere. Because you're probably never going to publish it. You're going to be in revision hell and rewrite hell for all your life. You're going to spend tons of money on people teaching you this, that, and the other thing. And all they're really there for is to tell you how great you are and take your paycheck. So avoid that. You know, this is a trade. You want to learn the trade? Great. If you think you have the best thing that mankind has ever seen inside you to write, well, okay. But you're not going to write it in your first 5, 6, 7, or 8 books. You know, it's going to take a while for you to get that out. It's really, really hard to get out great books. And I know some guys who've written some fantastic, and women, first books. But their greatest book was still years later when they turned out some amazing work. Right. Realizations and changing tact. The middle years. Yeah, 2012, 2013. Growing dissatisfaction with writing the paranormal romance. Because while I enjoyed it, I didn't love it. All right. There was a lot of it out there. And it wasn't being as fulfilling for me. I mean, I still like it and love it. And if I really loved it enough, though, to write it, I mean, I love reading it, but if I'd loved it enough to be a writer in it, I would have stayed in there because there's so much money in the romance market. There's so many readers in the romance market. It is, hands down, the biggest market out there. But for me, I didn't love it enough to stay with it. It just wasn't doing it for me. I was also realizing that I wasn't growing my backlist with pen names. You don't want to do pen names. Now, yeah, I technically have one now, but I don't hide it. It's a brand separation thing. I make it clear to everyone that I write under 2 names. These are the differences. This way I don't get yelled at by people who say, how dare you write this kind of stuff because you've been writing blah, blah, blah. And yes, as you get a name, that will happen. People will expect certain things from you. Wanting to do something I enjoyed more. Oh yeah, hands down. And also I was learning the market. I was learning a lot of stuff. And I started experimenting. I started trying to branch out. I started writing things that I really loved, but I wasn't sure if there was a market for. And so I engaged in some experimentation and branched out from there. And that led to 2014 when things changed. And that was when I decided to go full time at first. I had a story that had been sitting around for years, close to a decade almost. Well, actually a little less than that. I'd written it. I'd written the first 2 books, but I had been sitting on it because I didn't think anyone would want it. The rocket was what I call the release cycle when you got something that hits. It's First it takes off and it blasts so high, and then Amazon kicks in because the reviews and the sales, and you see a second stage effect. Not so much anymore, because Amazon's changed a lot of the ways they promote stuff. But you see it. You get this huge initial surge of sales, and the sales quickly slough off for like a day or two, and then you get this long tail of gigantic amounts of sales, and that'll last for a month or two. It's second stage hit. Maybe I shouldn't have taken that job. Yeah. That had to do with the lessons I didn't learn until 2017. Had decided I would go full time, and then a company in the field I had been working in for a long time offered me a very lucrative contract for some place I wanted to move back to anyway, and I figured, well, I'll let somebody pay me to move back there. I ended up not moving back there because the place had turned into such a hole politically because of laws and stuff. It was just no longer the fun place it had been when I'd lived there over a decade ago, or actually more like 20 years ago. So yeah, somebody else paid for that. But it also hurt my writing because you can't work a 40-hour job, especially away from home, and then try to put in another 40 hours a week of writing. And then it made life rough, and I didn't get to the production schedule I really would have liked to. I'll come back to that a little bit. There's my 2014 sales. All right. Mind you, that's the majority of those sales took place the end of August through the end of the year. So it was September, October, November, December. That's where about 80% of that came, because if you look down the Portals of Infinity series at the bottom, that's where all the books were. All right. So we're looking at 13,000 books plus were sold. Over 13 in Amazon alone. So Barnes & Noble, you can see, not much there. Same for Smashwords. CreateSpace was paperbacks. They've now been rolled into Amazon. I looked at that and I said, okay, I made that much money in less than half a year. That's not bad. If I devote myself to this harder, I can definitely make a lot more, because I was doing 6 figures in consulting, but I was getting tired of the gig. Now, what happened? How did I get the success? That story I sat on for so long, it was a portal fiction story, okay? These days, I'm probably the godfather of portal fiction, because I was the first person to bring it back. I mean, yeah, it's an old thing, but nobody was writing it. It's not get hit by a truck, die, and end up somewhere else, Japanese stuff. But I wrote it. It was a story I liked. It was based on several ideas that I'd gained from several very successful series from back in the 70s, one of which I never even read to this day, but I knew the plot really well because everybody kept talking about it. So I wrote it, and I put out the first book, and I followed up a month later with the second book because they had been written a long time ago. I just made sure they were good and popped them out there. Yeah, I advertised it, put a lot of effort into it, but it took off, and it took off very strongly. And it had a few other aspects in it that people liked, that they hadn't been seen around. And I started to make a name for myself, and I had some very big weeks, and things just pretty much went from there. Now understand, these books didn't come out of a vacuum. I had another number of other stories I had been working on and writing. So I had the experience when I went back. I did rewrite these before I released them. But I was able to find a niche, get out there and do it. I was able to bring something new, portal fiction, and place with numerous different worlds and realities. And I write different worlds and realities good. Unlike certain other things, every world these people go to does not look like the United States made over again. Or in the case of the other people I'm talking about, look like Japan made over again. But that really set me on the road. Now, 2017, when things changed again, around 20 16, things really took a dip. Part of it was because I took that job, and that hurt my sales because I wasn't putting out books regularly enough because I was being slowed down. Part of it was the Rothfuss factor and a bit of the George Martin factor, because I put out a trilogy, and I put the first book out, and at the end of the book I mentioned it was a trilogy, and everyone said, "Oh, it's a trilogy. We're not buying any more of your books until it's finished because we don't want to be Rothfussed again." And yeah, that bastard fucked over a lot of authors, pardon my French. So, because I wrote book 2, and yeah, no sales. I'm like, damn. So I wrote book 3 really freaking fast, way ahead of schedule. It's 1/3 smaller than the other 2. Then I yelled at everybody, okay, 3 books are out there, it's finished. But by then, of course, all the people had forgotten and moved on, so the sales were really bad. So I was kind of pissed. Now, one of the other things I had besides Portal Fiction that came out of writing Portals of Infinity is I was also now known as a harem writer. I did lean into it with the trilogy I wrote a little bit. I also had another paranormal series out there called The Hammer Commission that originally was based on a very lucid dream I had one year, back in 2000. And at the urging of my then boss at a company I worked for, she said to leave it the way it was, where the guy ended up with 4 wives, because I was going to change that. It was just, the draft was that way for reasons. And so I did. And so, yeah, suddenly I am not only a harem writer, but I'm the harem writer. Because Portals of Infinity, the guy ends up with 2 wives because he's like a sailor. Also, another thing about Portals of Infinity is that was originally RPG. RPG, whatever, lit RPG, I forget what they call it now. But it was very firmly in that category when it was written. It has since been kicked out. But Portals of Infinity was originally based heavily on tabletop RPG gaming. And if you look at it, especially the early books, it becomes very clear. And I got that idea from a Roger Zelazny book from a long time ago. There's nothing new under the sun with lit RPG. That stuff's been around since the 70s. But so sales had crashed, and I was very unhappy, and I was debating going back to consulting. Several of my contemporaries were doing very well with stories. Michael Scott Earle's one of those people. And again, they're starting to push into things. And a few of those things, I'd been there. Well, I'd like to think I was there first. They just did it better than I was now doing it because I wasn't doing it. And I sat down and I made a list of all of my books on a whiteboard. And I grabbed a bottle of Jameson's and I killed it. And I'm talking a big liter bottle, not a small one. And I sat down there and I looked at everything that him and a number of other authors who I knew or had read were doing and were being very successful with. And I compared what they'd done to what I'd done. I looked at my early successes and what I'd done and what I was no longer doing. And I graphed it all out or made a chart. And based on all of that, and all that anger, which again, I didn't turn around and cut down other people because I was pissed and I was doing poorly and they were doing well. No, I said, how are they doing well? Where did I get off the path? How do I get back on the path? What are they doing? How can I do that? Little side note, don't hang around with losers. Hang around with winners. Don't emulate losers. Emulate winners. These are the people you want to look at. So yes, the Valens legacy came out of jealousy of people doing better than me, who I used to do the same as. Anger at having done or been doing the wrong thing and not living up to my potential or what I wanted to do. And alcohol, because when you're a little drunk, yeah, sometimes it's a lot easier to look at things and make hard choices and make hard decisions. I also use the whiteboard. I still have pictures of that sucker around here. And I plotted out all of the Valens legacy that night. And look at what happened. That number is based on the 4th quarter. Okay, that is almost exclusively 4th quarter of 2017 sales. I sat down, I started at the very end of August, and I didn't even publish the first book until the end of September, because the rule became don't publish a book until the second book is ready. So I had the first book completely ready to go, and then I started the second book. And when the second book was finished and I was just waiting for cover art, I published the first book. And that was the rule of this series for the first year. Book doesn't go out until the next book is done. And I racked up a huge amount of sales. I hit the target dead on. My thing was, okay, people are saying, oh, this harem stuff did some good stuff. And it's like, hey, I'm supposedly one of the godfathers of this genre. And I know how to write a good story. So I'm going to show everyone how to do it right. And that's exactly what I said to myself, and that's exactly what I went out there and did. And understand, this is primarily, it's a men's adventure story. The harem is an aspect. I don't focus on it. It's not all about getting it. It's about this guy, the circumstances in his life, what happens to him along the way. And yeah, he finds love and romance just with more than one woman. And they're not even human. Of course, he's no longer human at that point either. And I hit it dead on. So, yeah, next year's 2018 sales were probably, I'm not going to put up the mark for that, but to this day, they are hands down the best sales I have ever had. And if you look, again, at this point, I've gone exclusive to Amazon. I am in KU, so all the sales are in Amazon. You notice several of the other category leads have blank tops. Those places have all gone out of business. Smashwords, I've kind of stopped doing business with, period. Barnes & Noble, I still had some stuff with. And at this point, not long after this point, all those paranormal romance stuff and everything, I pulled them all down. I'm out of that market. I pulled everything down. I don't even sell there anymore. I'm just done with it. It's over. And if you look, you'll see. If you look down in the bottom right-hand corner at the red circle, I sold 65,000 copies in the fourth quarter of 2017. Now, if you look up above at the stuff under my name, yeah, I sold 18,000 plus, close to 19,000 for the whole year. And most of that was the Portals of Infinity. Interregnum is a follow-on to Children of Steel. That was the one I wrote because the fans requested. Yeah, look how crappy that did. Lost Souls was an experiment. Didn't do so well. I've since pulled that one down. It really didn't hit my market. Then you have Wolf Killer, Loose Ends, King of Las Vegas, The Hammer Commission. Those were based on... Hammer Commission isn't on... Oh, it's up in a different spot. The Hammer Commission was based on The Dream. Those other ones I just mentioned were follow-ons. They did okay. Wolf Killer actually did very, very well. It was my first top 10 category bestseller. Of course, that was written 2 years earlier, but it's still doing well. And of course, Days of Future Past, that was the trilogy that totally tanked. At this point, it's kind of doing sort of okay. It started coming up when people started looking for other stuff I was writing. And most of my sales, again, if you look in the the gray column, you'll see I was getting a tremendous amount out of KU. So KU was back then working for me very well. So what happened? Well, I pretty much told you what happened. I went after a market that I was supposed to be well known in, and I just hammered the hell out of it. And I did everything I could. I wrote a very action-paced adventure series. I stacked my action scenes on top of action scenes. Okay, if you're going to write an action book, you really want to start stacking your action scenes. You want the second action scene to start before the first one's even finished. And the more you can stack them and keep dragging people through that story, the more they're going to like it. Also, the first two books were first one was under 60,000 words. Second one was over a little. You don't have to write huge, long novels. You give somebody a novel they can read within a day or two, they will. They like those short turnarounds. A lot of people, especially men, they don't want long reads. They want fast turnarounds because they want to get through it. They want to finish it. And then I went on a once-a-month release schedule, and I did that for almost 2 years. Okay, in a period of 2 years, I wrote like 20 novels and a bunch of short stories. And a couple of those novels weren't even in the Valens Legacy series. I wrote 2 outside of that. It really came down to, at this point, I knew my market. I laser focused in on where I wanted to hit that market, and then I worked my butt off. I mean, literally, I was working 12 or longer hour days, and I was doing that 6 days a week, and I was doing half that on the 7th day. So these are the secrets. Writing to market, only if you know and enjoy it. You got to know the market. You got to enjoy it. If you're just going someplace for the money, you're not going to make money. You may make a small profit up front, but you're just screwing yourself. There's nothing new under the sun. Now, I'm still considered the first in the portals market, which has become large again. When I went into it, there was nobody there. And the harem market, which I'm actually kind of slowly moving out of now. I still enjoy some of it, but the market's just changed too much. Because I'm really a men's adventure writer. I'm not really a harem writer per se. I enjoy adding those aspects. It can be a lot of fun. But I am not purely that kind of a author, even though I am considered to be one. And a lot of that's because first Portals of Infinity and then the Valens Legacy. Which, yeah, go buy it and read it. I could use the money. This is a big one. Do not be afraid to combine things that no one thinks will work. Michael Anderle did that. He took vampires, werewolves, space opera, alien invasion, MILF sci-fi, uber heroine, sci-fi, action, and he made millions. He whipped all this crap together and put out something nobody'd seen before, and he found out how to get it to the people who would like it. He did, and word spread, and it went crazy. And you want to know something else? Is his writing was like at a 6th grade level. The man does not write very well. But the story was amazing. So people bought it. People will forgive a multitude of sins to be entertained. Remember that. I mean, he went back and re-edited everything and brought the level of writing up because he got a bunch of editors to help him and everything. But he had that success before then. And then he went back and fixed everything to try to continue that success, and he did. What I said before, book a month. A book a month, comic book model. You get the next book out before they forgot about the last one. And if you're having issues, Amazon runs on a 60-day cycle for your publishing, and it's based on the name, not your account. So if you drop a short story out there, that will keep people engaged. And it'll keep the algorithm going. So if you're going to take too long, drop a short story or 2 out there. Just to keep the algorithm going, keep your name out there, keep people seeing it. 2 medium-length books are better than 1 long one. Yes. And this is what people want in ebooks. I know a lot of folks will sit there and say, oh, but I can't break up my story. Oh, but it's a long story. Yeah, no, nobody cares about what you want, okay? This is all about sales, marketing, not about the author anymore. So take that big-ass long book and break it in 2. Let the author figure out how to do it because the marketer will appreciate it and so will your bank account. For some reason, commitment is hard for ebooks. And again, remember, the majority, and by majority I mean like 95% of all books written and read for recreation were like 45,000 words. The goal for a novel, the definition of a novel, is anything over 40,000 words. So when you're sitting there writing 120,000 words, you've effectively written 3 novels. So try breaking it up into 2. And people, they get a 60,000 word book. Yeah, a lot of people are like that, and they're not going to complain. Especially if you're writing a series. People like series more than they like long books. And yeah, you'll get a few people who complain. Yeah, screw them. You're always going to have people whining and bitching at you. The thing to look at is sales. As Larry Correia likes to call it, the Benjamin Award. How many Benjamins are you getting? All right? Because sales are the name of the game. And if you want to be successful, you got to sell books. If you want people to read your books, you got to sell books. So like I said, 2 medium-length books are always better than 1 long one. And this is key. Make your prices accessible. You're not famous. $2.99 is a good starting place. I made $1 million off of $2.99. That's really where you want to start. Volume. Volume, volume, volume. That's the secret to success in any business. It's volume. If you charge too high a price, no one's going to buy your book, or only a few people are going to buy your book. And the people say, oh, I loved it, and the price is fine. Yeah, screw them. They're not selling anything. Yeah, there's always some people out there who will pay extra because something looks like it's in their wheelhouse or fits their niche or whatever, gets their jollies off. But you want everyone. You don't want just a few people. You want as many people as possible. And when you're a new author and you have no idea how many times people wrote me and said, wow, I saw your price was $2.99. I had no idea who the hell you were, but I figured I'd take a chance because $3, hey, if I lose $3, it's not a big deal. And now I'm going to buy everything you write for the rest of your life because they loved it so much. I did start raising some of my prices to $3.99 out of all of my friends. I've got a lot of writing friends, several of whom make way more money than I do. They all kept pushing me to raise my price because I was the last of all the name authors in a couple of these markets to bring my prices up because I was getting a tremendous amount of volume and I wanted to keep readers happy. I mean, yeah, now I'm starting to put some of my books out at $5.99, but I've got a lot of stuff out there at $3.99 and $4.99. I only recently raised my last $2.99 book up. So, but then again, I've got a reputation now. People know me. They know they're going to buy my stuff. They know they're going to enjoy it. They know I will entertain them. So I can ask a little more. But starting out, no, man, keep your prices down. You are not special. All right? You are not special at all. Your goal is to become special. And you become special by getting people to buy your books and to read them and to enjoy them. Remember, backlist is where you're going to make a lot of your money from. So you get people in, get them reading your stuff, and they're going to go read all your stuff. And as you get a name and as time goes on, you can bring up your prices. But you don't have to have a $5.99 book to be rich or a $4.99 book. I did it on $2.99. All right? There's a lesson in that. Pay attention. Marketing. What I did and did not do. Okay, most websites have ads. This has changed drastically. I don't know how this works as much now anymore. I used to go with a separate company, which is long gone. But I used to put ads on websites. You can always contact the website directly and ask if you can do an ad directly with them, paying them. Places will do it. As for what websites to put ads on, the ones you go to. Because remember, people are going to like your stuff the most are the people who are most like you, who like the things you like. Facebook does advertising. It used to be worthless. It's changing. Lately, it seems to be getting a lot better. Take a course. Learn on it. I need to get back into that. Book promoters. There's a couple different types of these. I would be very careful with the ones that you got to pay for. A lot of them are pretty shady. And you got to also look into how they do their promotions because you don't want to get in trouble with Amazon. You never want to get in trouble with Amazon. Not all are equal. BookBub is still one of the better ones. I don't know if the demographic still leans towards women. It did for a long time, though, because BookBub started with romance. Physical advertising. I did a lot of this. I still do a lot of this. It's good for conventions. Posters. Every convention's got places to put them up. Postcard size ads. They got tables you can drop stuff on. Put your cover on one side, blurb on the back. Use those little, not barcodes, the square codes, QR codes or QL codes. Put those on everything so people can take a picture with their phone and they'll have it in the picture and they can look at it, or they'll use their phone to scan it. Because you get into somebody's phone, and now you're in their search history. All right, so if they scan your ad, you're in your search history or in their search history, and that is good sales, good marketing, because you're in their machine. Business cards are always good. Hand them out. Hand out lots of them. There's good places you can go for prices. I use Vistaprint for a lot of that. Mailing lists. There's a lot to learn about that. I have one. Mine isn't as good as it probably should be. I'll go into that later. And social media. Yeah, you got to be on social media. You got no choice. It's just the way it is. And you're selling ebooks, so everything's online. So, of course, social media, well, online. It's logical. Amazon. Got to be on Amazon. Amazon is over 95% of all ebooks sold online, all books sold online. It's Amazon. Barnes & Noble had a good shot at it, but unfortunately, they screwed up. They screwed up because they had a CEO who didn't want to be in the ebook business. If it wasn't for that, they'd be as big as Amazon. Who knows if they'll ever catch up. They've been struggling with a lot of things. And using them to do ebooks is a pain in the butt because they just keep screwing with everything. They don't know what they're doing. And going exclusive with Amazon so you can get to KU. But Amazon does try to hook readers up with books. And for me, the also read section was a great marketing tool. You know, they have keywords and all this stuff, and there's a tremendous amount you can learn about using the Amazon marketing tools. That's another thing that's changed recently. I would love to take a course on it. If you can find a good one, a good one, take it. Free ones, yeah, why not? It's free. Always take a good look. But for me, you know, you look and they have prices per keywords and everything else. I can't afford my own name as a keyword on Amazon. That's how expensive it's gotten, which is kind of cool. It means lots of people are using my name to try to sell books. So if people enter my name, I'm going to come up anyway on the search. But just seeing on one of the tools how much my name costs as a keyword to search on, yeah, I have to admit, I giggled. Yes, KU. KU is good and bad. It sells books. Got to be careful. There's a lot of scammers on KU. You don't want to get dragged in. Keep an eye on your KU sales. If you got something going crazy on KU and it's not going equally crazy on your direct sales, you may want to call Amazon and say, hey, is there something wrong here? I'm noticing this book is not in the ratio all my other books are. And there were, I don't know if there still are, but there were some people working in KU who didn't like me, and they were going after some of my books and giving me grief. So I pulled some of my books out of KU, and that all went away. So I'm not totally in KU. I'm heavily in KU, but I have stuff that's not in there. And for me, I could leave KU tomorrow and it wouldn't affect my income. I did it before for reasons. And while I had less sales, I still made the same amount of money. But a lot of people complained to me that they were on fixed incomes and they bought most of their stuff on KU, and they really would appreciate it if I go back in KU because they were voracious readers, and KU's $10 a month. And would I please go back? And so I thought about it. I said, okay, sure, why not? And that's why I went back into KU. I did it for my readers. That really was it. It wasn't not a monetary decision. Yeah. Blog. Yep. Have at least one. Email. Put it everywhere. You may want to get a dedicated account, but readers will reach out. And one of the things you want to encourage is your readers, if they find typos, to contact you and not contact Amazon, because Amazon can be really obnoxious about dealing with that. Author Central, yeah, you got to have one of those on Amazon. People will check it. There used to be discussions on Author Central. I forgot to delete that line. Those are gone now. I missed that because, it was a great interface place with readers. Facebook, yep, do that. A lot of people. Facebook is huge now. I have a fan club on Facebook. I didn't even start it. So that stuff helps. It helps a lot. Facebook, you got to be there because there's so many people there. Twitter, now called X. It's changed a lot for the better. I left until Musk bought it. Then I kind of came back. It's a good place to talk about launches and status. I was pretty much heavily shadow banned on Twitter for a long time, and it took a while for that to wear off. Didn't even go away when Musk bought it. Now it seems to have gotten better. It is a good place, though, to mention launches and status. I'm honestly thinking of hiring somebody to deal with a number of these things for me and not doing it myself because it takes time. Goodreads is a good place. I update there. I have a presence there. I don't do too much talking there, but I mention stuff. Patreon, Subscribe Star, Substack. I started off on Patreon way back when, so I have the good prices. I have seen people literally making $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Authors. One of them's a friend of mine. He makes like $5,000, and he can't understand it because all of his Patreon, he's got one level, $1. I have $1 and I have $5. I post, the $5 people get to see what I'm working on. I try to put up a couple times a week. When I was really going crazy writing, I'd put up half a book a week just about. I went to Subscribestar because Patreon started engaging in certain politics and othering people. It looks like they may have stopped that, but they got really picky on a lot of stuff. So I got that as a backup, and I got people over there. I'm on Substack now, but not doing it for pay. The whole reason I'm there is John Ringo told me to, which is kind of funny. I talk to him occasionally. I wouldn't call him a friend, but he's an acquaintance. He's a nice guy. And we were talking about it because he has his monetized, and I'm on it. But I'd been talking to him somewhere else, and he said, got to get it. It's better than Patreon. Just get a Substack. So I got it. I'm doing some stuff with it. I don't know if I'm going to turn it into a monetary thing. Time will tell. Lessons learned. There are a lot. Try to get through them. These are some of the key ones. There are many paths to success, but they all do seem to share a few stops along the way. You will notice this. You will say, "Oh, I'm going to go." You'll want to go your own way, or you hear other people going their own way, or people tell you, "You have to do this, you have to do that." And as you go along, you'll discover there's a few have tos that you have to. You may come at them a different way. You may have gotten there a different way, but there's always some things along the way that are the same. So listen to the other people. Don't be afraid to try to strike off on your own, but pay attention to what other people tell you, because sometimes you're going to need that. And don't be upset if there's certain things you have to do that you didn't want to do because you want to do it your own way. It's a business. This is key. Don't take advice from someone unless you know they're selling better than you are. All right? Any advice from someone who is way smaller than you, I fell down this boogie hole, or whatever you want to call it. People were telling me on a particular forum things I should do. And they were giving me advice because I'm looking for advice. I'm always open. I used to be very big in a particular hobby thing. And I used to take advice from lots of people or listen to what they had to say because I was curious. And I'd weigh it and decide. And I learned there, and unfortunately, it didn't carry the lesson over to here right away. Because I'm getting advice from people, and these people are telling me how good they're doing, and I'm like, wait, I know this is bad advice. I've done this, doesn't work. I've done this, doesn't work. It's like... So one day I went out, and I told everybody how much I was making, because they were all acting like they were making way more than me. And I threw kittens in a blender. And I found out they were all doing way less than me. And so that's why their advice was bad, because they had no idea what they're talking about. They talked a big game. They claimed they were great and famous and blah, blah, but they weren't. And they got very upset at me because I'm trying to be low key, and it turns out I was better than all of them. I've run into a lot of jealousy over this. I've gotten some bad treatment from some old conventions where I used to do stuff. And when they found out I was better than their fair-haired boy, it didn't go well. I don't go to those places anymore. But it's very true. When people start giving advice, find out how they're doing. And if they won't tell you, well, maybe you should go find someone else to talk to, because there's a lot of bad advice out there. Like on loss leaders, all right? No, don't make your first book perma-free. That doesn't work. Don't take your first book and make it always 99 cents. That doesn't work. $2.99 is good. If you get really big, you can go a little higher. Sales are good. Yeah, because then people go, ooh, it's a sale, and people who've been thinking about it, you might just push them over the edge. So for sales, 99 cents is fine, but it's a limited time offer. Avoid all those things. Don't hate on the authors making more than you. Yeah, praise them. Congratulate them. Be nice to them. You have no idea how many of these guys and gals are so just want people to acknowledge them, and because all they get is crap. You acknowledge them, make them happy. Yeah, they'll tell you stuff. They'll be your best friend, maybe. But they will help you. They may mention your name. And when a big famous author mentions your name, guess what you get? Sales. All right? So never, ever get down on anyone because they're doing better than you. Always be nice to them. Heck, tell other people about it. Don't be afraid to mention their name. Say, hey, I love this guy. Yeah, he's way better than me, but so what? So you throw him some extra sales. It's not going to hurt you. Never hurt you, right? Being polite, being nice, helping other people out will never help you. Make jealousy work for you. Like I said, use it to channel your energy to work harder to catch up with those other people. Don't make it a negative. Make it a positive. Make it work for you. you can do that with a lot of emotions. Just try to use them to spur you on, to work harder, to be what you can be, to be what you were meant to be. Let it drive you. Get an accountant. Don't do your own taxes because you're going to lose money, all right? Don't go to H&R Block. Don't go to anything online. No, that stuff sucks. And it doesn't work for authors. You get different taxes as an author. You're handled differently because you're not quite an entertainer. Everything works differently when you're an author. Get an accountant. I recommend you get a CPA because eventually you're going to come to, do I incorporate or LLC or any of that? And those are questions only a CPA can answer for you. So get an accountant. It's worth it. They make you money. Get off any site that has a fair amount of scammers, all right? It's the big, don't hang around losers, you'll be a loser. Don't hang around scammers, you'll be a scammer. These people cause problems, they cause trouble, and they could very well cost you your career. So get away from them. Don't screw with Amazon. You need them far more than they need you. And you're going to sign a legal agreement with them, and they're going to hold you to it. And they may even take you to court if you screw up enough. So, yeah, don't mess with the bear. They're there to make you money. All right? They're your business partner. They're there to make you money. Read the agreements. Pay attention. Never mess with them. If anything ever happens, apologize. Move on. But don't test them. You want to stay away from that as much as you can. If you don't have a lawyer, get one. Yeah, it's expensive. But if you don't defend your turf, you won't have any. And the fact of the matter is, as an artist, lawyers make you money. They don't cost you money. Your business, you get to write it off. But they're there to protect your sources of income. And a C&D, cease and desist, or DMA takedown notice from a lawyer gets instant action from damn near everyone except for the scammers and the pirates. Everyone else, yeah, they're going to pay attention. You file it with Amazon, you'll get a response in 15 minutes usually, or your lawyer will, and the stuff will disappear. Same with YouTube. People putting stuff up on YouTube ripping you off, yeah, you can write them all you want. You're nobody, they don't care. Your lawyer writes them, bang, it's gone. And there is a thing on YouTube called Fuck You, Pay Me. Watch it. Not all of it applies to us as authors, but enough of it does. And if you're a Mythbusters fan, Adam Savage recommends this constantly. I watch it every few years. It's very much worth it. Okay, some things you never heard of. Maybe you have. Covers. Unless you have experience, hire somebody. I have experience, I still hire somebody. I think part of why my Portals of Infinity series took off is because it was my first real professional cover. I found a company that does covers. I've been using them since 2014 now. Great relationship. Actually, maybe 2013. But I had them go back and redo a bunch of my covers. I have now 2 cover artists. A friend of mine who's an artist and she does great covers. Cedar Sanderson. She does all my covers now. Ebook Launch does my other covers. Like I said, unless you have years of experience, hire somebody because you need a graphic artist, somebody who understands it. Titles, shorter is better. Keywords, use them. This has been changing lately on Amazon. I've always used them. I use them very carefully with the old rules. I need to learn the new rules and do it. Your blurb is important. Make it catchy. Make it yours. Also, check the spelling and everything. Huge one. Don't rip other people off because readers will not like it. Also, you could get sued. Also, Amazon might ban you and then you're dead. This is from a old fable, parable, whatever you want, which has 3 lessons in it, and the 3rd lesson is, if you're in deep shit, happy, don't sing about it. Yeah, if you're doing really well in a genre, don't crow about it, because that's what the right to market people are looking about, and they will descend on you, and they will cover everything in 2 inches of horse manure or cow manure, whatever your least favorite type of manure is, chicken manure. Because they will go there and they will just crap on everything, and it hurts the genre. Again, don't hang out where the scammers go, because if you do, you're going to get caught up. And as far as places like Amazon are concerned, you're just being there as a crime. And they, every once in a while, they used to go in and look for who was in these places. And then they'd ban those people. All right? And they can do that. Don't abuse your business partner, Amazon, because that's not why you're in partners with them. Being a dick will not make you rich. All right? Understand that. Nobody wants to deal with obnoxious personalities. Nobody. Mailing lists. I'd be a bit more on this. Gives you control. Allows you to offer special deals, incentives, better advertising. Sign people up, put it in books, advertising campaigns. Mine, I don't manage mine very well. It's something I've been thinking of again, turning over to somebody else. Don't spam your subscribers. Do put up a legal disclaimer that you won't sell your readers list. That's important. Now, I have mixed feelings on them. It's grown slowly, but I have to admit, I'm becoming more pro towards them. Never share your list with anybody under any circumstances. That's why you should make it private. Never share it. Unless they show up, unless they're from the government and they show up with a warrant, nobody gets to look at it. Because they'll rip you off and they'll spam it and then you'll lose all those people. Again, know your price points. These are important. That's why I got a whole page on it. Know your price points. Don't give your work away, ever. Exposure is what you die of when you don't get paid. Start off looking for volume. All right. First line in every business, every writer's business plan should be to get paid. Larry loves that one, and it's a good one. I love it too. Again, exposure is what you die from when you don't get paid. None of us know who said that first. I have a t-shirt with that on it. The solution to poor sales is to write the next book. Yep, Sarah told me that one. She's also the one who told me that your backlist is where your real money will come from. So keep writing, grow your backlist. And she was right. She knows the business really well. Overnight success is rare. Yeah, usually when you do see it, it's been rigged. It's just another marketing campaign. Keep writing. The more you write, the better you will get. Sarah. Writing is like a muscle. Train it, work it, exercise it. This is a business, and if you want to be successful, you need to treat it like one. Also, this is not a competition. You are not in competition with anyone. Never, ever get the thought in your head that you're competing with anybody, because you're not. All right? You are not in competition. No one writer can satisfy one reader, because every reader out there is going to be reading far more books in a day possibly than you write in a month or a week. A month or half a year or a couple of years. There's people out there who read 10 books a day. Most people who are regular readers, they read several books a week or more. How many are you putting out? All right, can you keep up with that? No, of course you can't. Don't even try. So that's why it's not a competition. Be friends with the authors around you. Be nice to everybody around you. It pays dividends, and if nothing else, being polite is its own reward. All fame is fleeting. I went from being a huge guy in urban fantasy there for a while to just another guy. We are in the entertainment business. What's hot this year may not be hot the next. The finger having written moves on. Love what you do or don't do it. In writing, this is a cardinal rule. The readers can tell. They can really, really tell. In conclusion, yeah, I learned the craft. I took the time, and I've had far more success in it than I've ever expected to have. I love writing. If I was younger, I'd probably be writing a lot more. It can be an exhausting business. It's a lot of work, and I'm getting up there. So to spend all the time, and especially when you've got chores around the house and everything to do, sometimes you can't put in all the effort into you want to, and life happens. But I took the time to learn the craft. I had my first big success early on in some ways, but you have to understand, I've been writing all my life. I was writing stories, novellas, back when I was in elementary school. My first novel, thank God, is lost to the sands of time because it sucked. I learned what I was doing wrong. I I spent time to hone my craft. My next novel was Children of Steel, which between the time I wrote it and the time I published it, over a decade went by. And I moved forward. And then I did things, like I mentioned, moving into paranormal romance to try to close the loop a little faster and learn more. And when I wrote Portals of Infinity, that was me putting a bunch of what I learned, or when I rewrote it and put it out, a bunch of what I'd learned to be successful. And then when I had my first problem, I looked at what I did and I figured out how to correct it. And I took everything I did and everything I'd learned and everything I'd observed, and I made a list of these are the things I need to do and these are the things I need to stop doing. It's a constant process. You're never going to stop learning. You're never going to stop growing. And I moved on and I did really, really well. Okay? I'm happy with what I do. I enjoy what I do. I'm hopeful I can do this to the day I die. I'm hoping 20 years from now I'm still writing. Yeah, maybe I won't be putting out as many books. Maybe I'll only get out 3 or 4 a year. I don't care. I hope I can do this as long as possible. I love doing this. And it shows. And your readers are going to see it too if you really love what you're doing and put everything into it. You will learn lessons along the way. I've learned many, and unfortunately there's so many I can't even keep them in my head at any one time. There's a lot of scammers in this business. There's a lot of people who screw you over. Never pay money to anybody, except for your cover artists, maybe your editors, and be careful how much you're paying them. Don't go overboard. Never pay money or give money to anyone to publish your books. Amazon will do that for free. Beta readers are your friends. Just work at it. Learn your lessons and just keep working at it. You can get there, and you can get there pretty damn quickly. But if you're coming here just to make a fortune because you believe writing is easy, no, go stand on a street corner with a sign like those other people do. You'll make way more money at that. This is not an easy profession. This is a very hard profession. If I put the amount of work into this that I put into the consulting work I used to do, I would have made just as much money there, probably more, because I was already recognized as an expert there, than I make here. But I didn't love that anymore. After 30 years, I was sick of it. This I love because it's always changing. It's so much more fluid. I can write whatever I want. I write science fiction. I'm back into hard sci-fi and space opera now. Doing really well there. Loving it. I'm still trying to keep a hand in urban fantasy, but you can move around as an author. You can do what you want. And people will enjoy it. And as you get a reputation, people will follow you wherever you go. And I guess that's pretty much it. I hope you got something out of this. Just remember, it's not going to be easy. You got to do the work. But if you do the work, it's rewarding.